Want fast, consistent, powerful kick drum placement like the pros? One of the most underappreciated aspects of great drummers is their power and precision with the kick drum. Yeah, I just said underappreciated. Because while drummers consistently ask for a faster kick or better kick doubles, not that many drummers are talking about a powerful, locked-in kick. Either way though, if you're watching this, you might be frustrated with your kick technique. And results. Intermediate drummers have a steep learning curve with the kick drum, and that can mean everything from you simply can't get it fast enough, to too much tension in the shins or hip flexors, to blinding the beater in the head even when you don't want to and not being able to choose the sound you get. To more advanced problems like accidental ghost strokes, i.e. when the beater makes an extra sound by striking the head lightly between your intended strokes. And I'm here today to tell you almost all of those issues boil down to a single problem. I mean, sure, there are other causes, but if you keep asking why enough times, a lot of these issues boil down to just one thing: your spring tension. What? Yes. And today I'll tell you exactly why that's such a major issue, and how it interrelates with everything else you think is a problem with the kick drum. Oh, I'm Nate, and people call me the 80/20 drummer, and on this channel we go a little bit deeper into drums. So if you want to do a little kick drum deep dive with yours truly, strap in, get those titanium 2Bs ready, and get ready to kick this puppy off. Because we're about to talk about it. Stay tuned. And folks, today's video is brought to you by me, the 80/20 drummer. And this week we've prepared something super special for you that you can get for free by clicking the link below the player and telling us where to send it. It's a super detailed yet easy to follow PDF outline with all of the concepts you might be tempted to write down from today's lesson, but since we've done it for you, you don't have to. You can get that by clicking below the player, telling us where to send it. Now, on with the lesson. First, let's talk about the different approaches to playing the kick drum. There's heel down, which is valid, and which we'll talk about in a minute. Then there's heel up, which is also valid. Most every student I take on, I ask at the beginning whether they played heel down or heel up. It's important because it relates to what you do with your kick drum technique and setup and everything else. If you're playing jazz or otherwise low volume music, heel down can be a great technique to avoid accidentally playing too loud. Though even with heel down, you need to be careful you have enough spring tension. If you're playing louder volume music, heel down is possible, but it's going to be mechanically harder. As in, are there great players who play loudly heel down? Sure, but the majority who play louder music play heel up. So, if you're a beginner or intermediate and you get tired too much or have pain in your shins, the first question I'd ask is, are you playing heel down? If the answer is yes, even in that case, the answer is usually raise the spring tension. Let's talk about setup with heel down. The rule of thumb, rule of toe, I like to use is this. Rest your foot in the most comfortable playing position. Now, is the beater resting on the head? If it is, there's your issue. Well, first issue. If the neutral position of the beater is on the head, that means you need to use your tibialis anterior, your shin muscles, to retract your foot. And that's no bueno. It also means you're more likely to bury the beater when you don't want to. Instead, try raising the spring tension until the beater is suspended around an inch away from the head with your foot resting on it. This might take some getting used to, but now the spring is doing the work of retracting the beater, which is as it should be. You should not need to use very much force to pull your toes up. If you play heel down, you'll have to recalibrate and learn to put a little more force into the downstroke. But this will pay off pretty quickly because you'll be able to play off the head and avoid those annoying shin splints. But Nate, I can hear you asking, what about heel up? Heel up is my favorite technique for everything. For a little discussion about why, see this video. But if you're first starting to play, I believe heel up is the more versatile technique if you're going to be playing loud music. There's one big glaring issue with it, which is that people think if they're putting their weight through the ball of their foot, that means the beater has to be resting on the head. That's not true. If you sit at the kit and assume the heel up position and the beater is resting on the head, here are two things I'd check. First, are you sitting far enough away from the kick? Preferences vary, but for a general rule of thumb, I'd recommend sitting high enough that your thighs are just above 90 degrees with the floor at a minimum. If you want to, you can go higher, and some drummers sit much lower, but in a vacuum, that's setting you up for success. Second, when you place your foot in the most comfortable part of the kick pedal, your thigh and shin should form a slightly obtuse angle, meaning it's more than 90 degrees. If you're forming an acute angle as a starting point, you're making it more difficult for yourself, even though some drummers have made it work. Once you've taken those setup steps, assume the position again, sitting comfortably with the foot in the most comfortable place on the kick pedal. Beater still on the head? Now, my amigos, we're back to my favorite bugaboo, spring tension. Crank up your spring tension until the beater is resting 1 inch from the head. You can also use the beater angle, which you can adjust with a drum key on most pedals, and just pull the beater toward you, then tighten it a bit. This changes the beater's rest point, which default increases the spring tension too. Got that nice inch? Sweet! Now let's talk about some second order problems you can face. The first and foremost problem will be you simply need more force to push the kick pedal now. You can just practice some basic strokes and your body will eventually reset. I'll cover some basic technique in a second, but let's talk about the other major issue I hear from people just starting out with heel up, hip flexor fatigue. That comes from using your hip flexors to pull up your foot. In certain cases, such as double pedal and advanced stuff, this can work, but in general, when you're starting out, it's no bueno. Try something with me. Just sit in an office chair with no drums, but with your feet out in the position as if you were playing the pedals, and the weight mostly on your tailbone, but slightly on the balls of your feet. Now, just do a seated calf raise with your kick drum foot. When your foot gets to the top position, let your heel fall to the floor with gravity and the weight of your leg. This is the basic technique. Now do it repeatedly like your nervous twitch bouncing your heel during an exam or an interrogation. Or after taking too much while trying to hack into the mainframe. Let's bring it over to the drums. If we start with a good seating position and good spring tension, we have the beater about 1 inch off the head at a resting position. Like George Coleus, I don't like to have my heel too far up in the resting position. My foot is almost level with the floor. It's just that my weight is through the ball of my foot, and the ball of the foot is the axis of rotation. Just as we did with our foot resting on the floor, we're going to do a little calf press through the ankle, then release the calf muscle, allowing the weight of the leg to come down through the beater. We can just practice some full strokes like this. When we're practicing, the foot should never lose contact with the pedal. Notice as well when I do this, the beater bounces off the head instead of staying planted there. If I want to plant the beater, I can, but I don't have to use any extra energy to avoid it. Now let's talk about a little elephant in the room. Accidental ghost strokes. When in the course of playing the kick drum, you're getting an extra contact as you wind up to play the next stroke. I've thought about this a lot, and I've decided that to initiate a stroke, you need to put a small amount of downforce through the pedal, through the ball of your foot, which normally wouldn't be enough to cause a sound. But if you're playing repeated strokes and the beater has momentum, that added small force can cause those unwanted ghost strokes. If this is happening to you, the first thing I want to say is good. That means you're doing the technique pretty close to correctly. If, for instance, you were planting the beater, you wouldn't be getting those ghost strokes. I also don't believe it would happen if you were using the hip flexors to pick up your foot. But that doesn't help you very much. You want solutions. And I'm here to tell you we can get out of this the same way we got in. Or as they say, the only way out is through, or when you're going through hell, keep going. Yes, my friends, we're going to solve this with, say it with me, even more spring tension. You see, nope, lost it. Feels like it was important too. Anyway, you need the Goldilocks amount of tension. Was that it? I don't think so. Anyway, you need the Goldilocks level of spring tension. So if you're getting those ghost strokes, just add little bits of spring tension until you no longer get them. Congrats! Now you found your ideal spring tension level. A lot of students will comment, that's so much tension. Yeah, but no more shin splits, planting the beater, or making accidental ghost strokes. Keep practicing the basic technique, but I'll also give you some basic exercises to recalibrate your muscle memory a little bit. For instance, first, I just play consecutive bass drum notes while playing 8s on the hats. This is a nice one just to get oriented. As you do these, try to keep from planting the beater in the hat. As a neutral starting point, you can choose to bury it later on. You can alternate with snare notes if you want. Next, I'd throw in some doubles over the same hat 8s. You can do it over a backbeat as well. Finally, I'd practice doubles in a grid with 16ths on the hats.
And that's how you get the gig.
Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed that one. I'm advancing a slightly controversial thesis, the idea that a lot of problems beginners and intermediates experience with the kick pedal boil down to a single issue, i.e. spring tension. If you agree with me, if you disagree with me, leave a polite comment below. Also, if you'd like an exhaustive but easy to read outline of all the material in this lesson, so you don't have to write it down, you can download that by clicking the link below the player and telling us where to send it. Dudes, it's been real. Always enjoy these. See you again real soon in another lesson of the week.